Have you ever had every opportunity to lead well, but chose compromise instead? Have you ever known what was right, yet stayed silent while someone else pulled the strings? What if your greatest failure wasn't your weakness, but the strength you gave away? Ahab wasn't a fool. He was a strategic ruler, a king with military victories, architectural achievements, and political alliances. He reigned over the northern kingdom of Israel during a time of economic success and military strength. But underneath it all, his legacy would be sealed with one word: wicked. He married Jezebel, allowed idolatry to flourish, and turned Israel's heart away from God. And while Jezebel commanded from the shadows, Ahab surrendered his backbone in silence. Have you ever watched someone destroy everything and said nothing, even when it was your job to stop it? Yes, Samaria, the capital of the northern kingdom, was where Ahab ruled. But it was also the place where he allowed altars to Baal to rise, prophets to be murdered, and the nation to drift so far from God that fire had to fall from heaven just to wake them up. Have you ever been in a place of influence, only to realize your silence is costing more than your words ever could? Ahab was the son of Omri, a powerful king who had expanded the northern kingdom of Israel and moved its capital to Samaria. From the outside, Ahab inherited strength. He inherited stability. He inherited a throne that could have been used to turn the hearts of a rebellious people back to God. But instead, he used it to build temples to Baal. He didn't just tolerate idolatry, he legalized it, promoted it, funded it. And at the center of that descent into darkness was his queen, Jezebel. Their marriage wasn't romantic, it was strategic. Ahab married Jezebel to form a political alliance with the Phoenicians. She was the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians and a high priest of Baal. She wasn't just a worshipper, she was a militant evangelist of Baalism, and once she stepped into Israel, she brought her gods, her prophets, and her rage. Ahab could have stopped her. He was the king, but instead he bowed, not in worship but in weakness. Have you ever handed over your authority just to keep peace with someone who was doing damage? Baal worship spread like wildfire. Altars rose across the land. Child sacrifice, sexual perversion, and demonic rituals became normal. Jezebel ordered the slaughter of God's prophets, and Ahab allowed it. Meanwhile, he built an ivory palace, surrounded himself with yes-men, and watched a nation bleed from the inside. Have you ever seen something deeply wrong and turned your eyes away because speaking up was too costly? But God wasn't silent. He raised up a voice to confront Ahab, a prophet named Elijah. One day, without warning, Elijah walked into the palace and declared, "As the Lord lives, there will be no rain in the land except at my word." And just like that, the heavens closed. A drought scorched the earth, crops failed, rivers dried. But Ahab didn't repent, he blamed. He hunted Elijah across the land, not to humble himself, but to silence the voice of conviction. Have you ever blamed God's messengers for the consequences of your own rebellion? 3 years passed, the land cracked with thirst, and then came the showdown on Mount Carmel. Ahab agreed to the challenge. Elijah versus the 450 prophets of Baal. Fire from heaven would decide who the true God was. And while the prophets of Baal shouted and cut themselves all day, heaven stayed silent. But when Elijah called on the name of the Lord, fire fell from the sky, consuming the altar, the sacrifice, even the water. The people fell to their faces. The Lord, He is God. Ahab saw it with his own eyes. He witnessed a miracle that should have changed his life. But when he went home and told Jezebel, her rage rose and his silence returned. Have you ever had a moment of clarity, only to go back to compromise as soon as pressure returned? Ahab's descent wasn't over. One day he looked out and saw a vineyard, Naboth's vineyard. He wanted it. But Naboth refused to sell it because it was his family inheritance. Ahab pouted. He sulked. He lay on his bed like a child, and Jezebel saw it. "Aren't you the king?" she mocked, and she took matters into her own hands. She forged letters, had Naboth falsely accused and executed, and then she handed the vineyard to Ahab. And Ahab, he walked in and took it. Have you ever accepted the benefits of someone else's wickedness, even when you knew innocent blood was behind it? God sent Elijah again, this time with fire in his eyes. "Have you not murdered a man and seized his property?" Elijah looked Ahab in the face and declared judgment. "Dogs will lick your blood where they licked Naboth's. Jezebel will be eaten by dogs. Your dynasty will fall." And for a moment, just a moment, Ahab tore his clothes, humbled himself, and God delayed the full judgment. But it wouldn't last. Later, Ahab joined forces with King Jehoshaphat of Judah to go to war. But before the battle, Micaiah, a prophet, warned him, "If you return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me." Ahab disguised himself in battle, hoping to avoid judgment, but a random arrow found him. It pierced through his armor. He bled out in his chariot, and when they washed the blood from the chariot, dogs came and licked it, just as Elijah had said. Have you ever tried to outrun consequences, thinking disguise could hide disobedience? Ahab had power. He had position. He had a prophet warning him at every turn, but he never fully turned. He allowed sin to fester. He enabled Jezebel's wickedness. He led Israel into idolatry. And in the end, his name became synonymous with compromise, cowardice, and a legacy of rebellion. Have you ever had the chance to lead, to correct, to speak up, and chose silence instead? What if Ahab's story is a warning that allowing evil is just as dangerous as doing it yourself? That silence in the face of sin is not neutrality, it's surrender. King Ahab's life wasn't destroyed by one decision. It was destroyed by thousands of small ones. And maybe that's the most dangerous kind of sin. Not open defiance, but slow decay. Have you ever found yourself in Ahab's position, watching things unravel, but too passive to speak? Have you ever stayed silent when you knew something was wrong, just to avoid confrontation or to keep the peace? What if Ahab's story is not just a lesson in leadership, but a mirror? A warning that silence in the face of evil is not innocence. Tell me, what part of Ahab's story struck you the most? Have you ever walked the line between truth and comfort, only to realize you can't serve both? If this story made you pause, don't miss our next video. Delilah, the woman whose seduction brought down the strongest man alive. Watch it next.